Beach erosion in South Carolina. South Carolina's coastline has been experiencing coastal erosion over time due to a variety of factors, including ocean currents, weather systems, beach usage, and maintenance activities. As I previously mentioned in my persuasive speech, W Colony is where I've grown up my entire life, and their beachfront erosion is considered extreme for South Carolina, and as a result, they've been at the center of multiple erosion-related legal cases. To combat this, South Carolina's Department of Health and Environmental Control, also known as DHEC, which I'll refer to throughout, is required to review and, if necessary, adjust the position of beachfront jurisdictional lines every decade to reflect changing trends and update shoreline data, which this is the main statement on their website for beachfront management, and also brings me to my main point. South Carolina's lawmakers, environmental groups, and coastal communities need to work together to develop and implement erosion solutions. Homeowners, the coastal populace, and the state itself are stakeholders in this fight. Homeowners have little to no voice and really only get the attention needed during an immediate disaster, such as a hurricane or flooding. Given their destructive impact too, the homeowners will also face the burden of being hit the hardest financially. As for the coast and state, the economy will tank without the beaches. Tourism draws in billions of dollars in revenue each year for South Carolina, and a decline in tourism will remove an enormous tax stream from visitors spending at the local and state levels. The beaches are essentially what South Carolina is known for, which is why the lack of focus is concerning to many and needs to be addressed. In this photo, provided by South Carolina's Department of Parks, Rec, and Tourism, it is seen that the coast is home to 5 major cities, including Charleston, which has the highest population in the state with over 150,000. It's also interesting to note that the major bodyways also connect to the ocean, and ocean levels rising will certainly affect more inland cities as well. Cities like Beaufort, Georgetown, Charleston, Hilton Head will be devastated too as well. In order to promote the long-term health of South Carolina's at-risk beachfront areas, statutory and regulatory changes are likely necessary to prevent further damage. In 2010, DHEC created the second Blue Ribbon Committee, the Blue Ribbon Committee on Shoreline Management more specifically, to address these issues. However, the committee's recommendations largely failed to gain significant traction with South Carolina's governmental leaders and decision makers. I propose the solution that these issues should be revisited due to the increasing frequency of beachfront erosion-related issues in South Carolina, and with summer right around the corner, these policies need to be advocated and implemented now more than ever. In order to solve the main problem, 2 plans need to be devised. First, implementing a statewide ban regarding the construction of new hard structures such as seawalls, revetments, and bulkheads on beachfront areas is necessary to battle beachfront erosion seaward of the baseline. Although maintenance of existing erosion control devices is allowed, the repair and reconstruction of existing erosion control devices is restricted, which is what Timothy Cana, a geologist as well as founder and president for Coastal Science and Engineering, stated is a driving issue in terms of the legality of it all. Oceanfront erosion control devices increase erosion rates on adjacent properties, often resulting in the loss of dry sand beach for recreational use and natural habitats. Therefore, state lawmakers should maintain the status quo of beachfront protection by banning construction of new hard structures seaward of the baseline. To go along with banning harmful devices for beachfront areas, South Carolina can also prevent future development seaward of the current jurisdictional lines. In order to do this, they need to adopt a policy called Holding the Line, which was originally coined back in 2018. Julian Henning, who graduated from the University of South Carolina School of Law, best explains the legality of this situation as a politically charged and ongoing conflict between public and private interests. Holding the line essentially dictates that the government, the public, can prevent you, private, from making changes to your own house or any other property regardless of its purpose, if as long as it's deemed harmful to the beach. Of course, this causes extreme backlash amongst those personally affected, which is why I propose a financial incentive similar to that of an eminent domain to further support the banning of beachhead structures entirely. This idea is one possible way for state legislatures to minimize the long-term negative consequences associated with residents having their rights infringed upon when it comes to South Carolina beaches. Debido colony cases highlight that financial incentives play a potentially significant role in determining the erosion mitigation methods utilized by South Carolina beachfront communities. By offering financial incentives, the conflict between the public and private parties that Julian Henning previously said above involved can be mitigated. In this case, in the photo here, Debido homeowners built sandbags on their own, which were promptly taken down by the state because technically that isn't their property and the state can dictate whatever they want. This photo highlights the public and private interests the best. These actions will benefit the long-term health of South Carolina's beach communities, which is best exemplified through Debido Colony. Therefore, by issuing a statewide ban and fully implementing a hold-the-line policy that restricts future seaward movement of beachfront jurisdictional lines, South Carolina can effectively combat beach erosion better than ever. The second plan I propose comes from a monetary perspective rather than a legal one. Problems can't be solved without proper funding, and this has been proven to be a very important issue when it comes to finding viable solutions. With an increase in government funding, coastal cities will be able to utilize and actually plan for prevention rather than relief. In recent decades, South Carolina's coastal communities have largely relied on beach renourishment projects to combat erosion and rising sea level. Beach renourishment is the process of adding sand onto beaches in order to replace sand that is eroded away. This process of beach renourishment can occur in multiple ways, including mining sand from pits on land and trucking it to the eroded beach, or dredging sand from offshore sites and pumping the sand back onto shore. However, critics argue that beach renourishment is often short-term, expensive, and wasteful, and these projects typically must be repeated approximately every 7 to 10 years, which is one disadvantage to this solution. This process, though, is best seen by this photo provided by South Carolina's Department of Health and Environmental Control. As you can see, the boat goes a couple miles offshore, pumps sand from out there, and through a tube that is oftentimes on the bottom of the sand, gets pumped back out, and bulldozers are necessary to level out the sand on the beach itself. And as you can see, this is a very expensive process. However, it is the best solution without a doubt. And issues will always persist with acquiring sufficient funding for widespread renourishment projects throughout the state. That's no surprise. Coastal communities often have difficulty uniting behind community-funded beach renourishment projects, and the most successful beach renourishment projects are generally undertaken by municipalities through ordinance requiring private contribution. As Peter Byrne puts it, he's a law journalist and expert on South Carolina's legal battles when it comes to coastal disputes. In South Carolina, several beach communities, including Debido Colony, privately funded their beach renourishment projects, which is not a solution whatsoever and portrays the failure of state legislatures. In my persuasive speech, I also explained how the mayor of Pawleys Island was able to secure funding through the government through what he called a one-time fund. However, without a dedicated funding source enforceable through an ordinance, it is often difficult to organize communities to pursue this course. This is per the Coastal Courier of Pawleys Island. Therefore, many beachfront communities in South Carolina have failed to implement projects because of insufficient financial resources. However, I argue that this is the best possible solution, as I showed in the graphic earlier about how beach renourishment is done. In 1990, 1998, 2006, 2015, and 2022, Debido conducted small to large-scale renourishment projects, with the ones in 1990 and 1998 having approximately 100,000 to 200,000 cubic yards of sand, and the projects in 2006 and 2015 placing approximately 500 to 600,000 cubic yards of sand, which is significantly larger. And these numbers come from Kem Rudin, who oversaw much of the project and advocated for the larger projects seen in 2006 and 2015. The result of each project has been an extreme decrease in beach erosion while also reducing damages from storm surges and waves. It's also important to note that during these years, South Carolina has experienced some of the worst hurricanes and flooding, and not once did Debido have to request financial funding from any government agency. See, it is proven to work. And Lyndon Naismith, an advocate for beach renourishment from Texas A&M, claims that Debido's commitment to constantly protecting their beaches saved them for more financially in the long run than it did from their expenses on paper. In addition to the final financial protection of beach renourishment, wide sandy beaches are the central attraction of South Carolina's tourism, which, as I stated earlier, draws billions of dollars in revenue each year. The absence of tourism would remove an enormous tax stream from visitors' spending and deter people from coming. An honest solution to me would be to utilize the tax money received through tourism and reinvest it back into the beaches now more so than ever. Coastal tourism is vital to South Carolina's economy, and adequate options must be implemented to sufficiently support the state's beach communities. In order to fund this project, the state must utilize tax dollars from other projects and departments and invest it back into the beaches. Or another solution would be to raise the tourism tax. However, people argue that it will lead to a decline in tourism, which I don't think would be possible because, per the Census Bureau on tourism, South Carolina is the top grossing state for out-of-state tourism, with many coming from the northeast due to COVID. Proper state legislative planning, support, and guidance are crucial to ensure stability between public and private parties. Beachfront preservation is likely easier to implement throughout South Carolina's coastal communities and lawmakers alike, which otherwise lack incentive to abandon their beachfront properties. Through issuing statewide bans of structures on beachfront and increasing funding for beach renourishment projects, these two plans can help prevent coastal erosion and are the two best solutions. However, it is up to the state lawmakers to see and realize the economic and environmental importance of maintaining the long-term health of South Carolina's beach communities and implement these policies immediately.